Dark Burglar Eyes just got released from the clinic. I'm not saying you realize the manner in which the world watches out for it and cares as exceptionally. It's staggering to the extent that our kin are all up at terrible point. No one contacted me one time since everything necessary is a press of the button branch of revisions. You know my name, you know my birthday. You all removed me from that. So I should get these prescriptions. Took me off the protection oak. Now you take me off the site is insane. It is causing me to acknowledge, while diving into the rise of the awful kid period in the hip jump scene of the right on time to mid-1990s. The spotlight frequently inclines toward the unbelievable famous large, and his transient climb followed by an unfortunate end anyway, in the midst of the unmistakable quality of figures. Like Big Deal, it's significant, not to disregard the significant commitment of Dark Loot, likewise perceived as Robert Ross, hailing from Spanish Harlem. Uncovering a less popular story, Dark Deny held the differentiation of being among the underlying craftsmen to eke an arrangement with terrible kid records. Yet things didn't turn out as great for him under Diddy now. There are charges that there may be something else to Ransack's destruction and death, and that Diddy may be involved. It doesn't take a clear creative mind to perceive how this torment the hip bounce head honcho. Calm Music, Dark Loot's relationship with Awful Kid Records, started in 1994, showing up on the Marks program not long after Craig Back, while his presentation collection biography accomplished platinum status. In 2000, his impact inside the name's famous minutes was felt even before then. Black Rob's process started under the moniker Bacardi Ransack, and his well-established connections to the lively rhythms of Harlem roads made ready for him to acquaint individual rapper G. Depp with a terrible kid family in 1998. Their cooperative endeavors brought about different events of creative cooperative energy, quite exemplified by the ageless single and music video. We should get it to be sure, even preceding his coordinated effort, with G. Depp. Dark Loot assumed a vital part in molding Terrible Kid's impact. It was through his companion RP that he was acquainted with Scene Puffy Brushes, the visionary behind the name, who was profoundly dazzled by his gifts. This experience prompted his change into Dark Loot. For a phase persona, moreover, he collected the blessing of Harve Pierre, a well-established chief at Awful Kid, whose instrumental pretended a critical part in controlling Dark Burglar Eyes of profession inside the Mark space. When you came to Awful Young Men, who was there at the time G. Biggie Confidence, Mary Jane. No, Mary Jo wasn't with us. It's generally recognized that Diddy bears liability regarding the downfall of Terrible Kid Records, and the tales behind the Mark's craftsmen are notable. A few craftsmen depended on exceptional measures like tossing seats at Diddy to remove themselves, while others faced legitimate difficulties bringing about detainment. A few stars went through strict changes, and after some time the name apparently transformed into what was named the Awful Kid Revival. Created the impression that any individual who became related with the name would ultimately confront hardship. Clearly, he was the Uber star, and I was simply promising, so it will be a show. However, he utilized that to just lost me. Like you realize, it was horrendous. Mace was ready to turn into a conspicuous figure, as well as across the whole rap scene. His declaration of backing away from rap to turn into a minister surprised everybody. A uniquely given his diagram, beating rule from 1996 to 1999. His sudden takeoff from Terrible Kid Records powered a warmed contention, energized by twirling bits of gossip about the explanations for Mesa's unforeseen choice, the genuine motivation behind why I concluded we should begin rapping. I just won the skirmish of my life. I needed to improve for my life. Not just time. Cash is ideal for your life. As a matter of fact, during the pinnacle of his profession, following the progress of his collection, Harlem World Labyrinth purportedly uncovered this expectation to a radio questioner. I felt like I had large chunk of change, yet I didn't actually have any idea who I was. I realized I needed to accomplish some different option from hip jump anyway. There are the people who stay dubious about the specific purposes for Mace's flight, leaving awful kid records was not regularly a simple accomplishment, as Diddy was known for making it provoking for craftsmen to leave their agreements labyrinth, had been endorsed to an arrangement that traversed a lot of time, which brought up issues about the conditions that prompted his takeoff of business-type circumstance. Yet they were cool regardless of the obstacles. Mace got back in the saddle following 5 years with his collection invite back under the terrible kid name anyway. Even after this return his craving to leave the name reemerged in a striking move. He figured out how to protect a meeting with Puffy, during which he straightforwardly mentioned his delivery from the agreement, checking one more contoured in his turbulent relationship with Awful Kid Records official Your Kid is Opportunity Bird in 2016 Labyrinth. Got back in the saddle during an Awful Kid Records visit and made a move to transparently scrutinize his previous supervisor. Adding to the show, he went live on Instagram to give his side of the story and shed light on the conditions encompassing the occurrence. This public broadcasting of complaints denoted a huge second in the continuous adventure among Mace and Terrible Kid Records. When I see the hurt and the torments of others on Awful Kid, that persuades me to say something so I don't may to be considered as an individual bundle of cash and choosin' to disregard in spite of an apparently endearing discourse conveyed by Diddy of the Grammys, the pressures among Mace. And him stay strange Mace kept on censuring Diddy, demonstrating the basic issues were a long way from being settled. The clashing elements between the two persevered, leaving their relationship in a province of ceaseless disquiet. Diddy said in all honesty hip bounce has never been regarded by the Grammy Stark music, has never been regarded by the Grammys, to the point that it ought to be. Mace freely voiced his disappointment with Diddy's remarks and his treatment inside Terrible Kid Records through an erased Instagram post. He additionally uncovered during a meeting that regardless of his huge commitments to the Marx hit tunes, he had not gotten fair remuneration. This featured the stressed connection among Mace and the name the monster. You ain't getting the cash, you ain't getting the distributing, you ain't getting the regard. And I don't think you'll appreciate that countless specialists recently endorsed to Diddy's name have decided to leave their music vocations and focus on their strict convictions. The inquiry emerges: what conditions prompted this example? What did they witness or experience that incited such a change in their needs? You at any point notice how a ton of ex-awful kid craftsmen rushed to some kind of religion. Subsequently, Greg Mack was the debut craftsman to send off music under Terrible Kid Records. At first appearance guarantee in his vocation direction anyway, his prosperity experienced a plunge, driving some to contend that his destiny was foreordained. The development of the famous enormous is many times pinpointed as a urgent second that moved Diddy's concentrate. However, the specific reasons stay obscure. There are claims that because of this Diddy endeavored to hurt Craig, albeit the subtleties and thought processes behind such charges remain covered in secret and stay here and do everything for everyone, and I won't see a single thing from it. Craig Mack confronted analysis for his actual appearance and persevered through monstrous jokes and the hip bounce scene charges. Recommend that Diddy's emphasis on the famous huge added to Mac's battles, and Macintosh's prosperity might have prompted stressed relations with Diddy. Puff could have done without him out of the blue. He didn't. He told Craig, yo, in the event that you don't battle your chief, you can't work for Terrible Kid. Adding to the intricacy, it's supposed that the famous Large had misgivings about teaming up with Craig Mack. Is a Craven Owl, further convoluting their functioning relationship. The specific subtleties of their disagreement were rarely openly affirmed, passing on space for hypothesis and speculations to flow about the explanations for the stressed connection among Big Deal and Craig Mack. Craig Mack and Big Deal smalls up from two different sort of periods. To be sure, Craig Mack's protection from Diddy's way to deal with the music business, alongside his dissatisfaction with regards to specific parts of Diddy's way of life, assumed a part in their stressed relationship. Mac's takeoff from Awful Kid Records And his case that somebody was endeavoring to hurt him further added to the interest encompassing his profession. And the conditions he confronted, he said, I got several dangers, 2 or 3 passes by in the roads following his takeoff from the music business. Craig Mack decided to embrace his strict convictions and became engaged with the Overcomer service. What is your name, sir? I go by Craig Mack. And what did you used to do when you was on the planet Fiendishness Oak? And what are you doing now, Honorableness? Another awful kid's Jewel Sparkles experience was something like damnation in late December 1999. A get-together in New York City took a dim turn when a dance club shooting